on the same
Connect
platform.
plus,
Yeah.
Connect plus,
Okay.
that's right, yeah. And you have two attempts.
2 to 10.
That's right, so you do it the first time. If you're not satisfied with your grade, you can do it again. Okay, and I'm going to take the highest score of the 2 attempts.
Okay.
So if you're patient, you should be able to get a really, really high grade on homework.
Let's make it 3.
Just to start out with, and then.
2 is optimal number.
Oh, sounds
We're
good.
gonna talk about how do we find optimal price, optimal output. That is optimal number of the attempts.
There you go.
Marginal cost has to be equal marginal benefit, right?
Right.
And also I want to mention some potential issue you might have encountered for the Learn Smart exercise, because I just learned that from her. She did it, Learn Smart exercise, but at the end of the Learn Smart exercise, she asks you, do you want to practice more? You don't click that button. If you click that button, they're going to give you another 21 questions to do. Okay, so you don't click that one. If you're satisfied with what you got, and you just go to the home page and you will see your grade for the Learn Smart. Okay? Did everyone hear what I said? Do not practice more if you're satisfied.
Won't be a problem.
Okay. Alright. So last class we started the supply and the demand. I introduced demand function. And then we talk about how do we derive the simplified demand function, and how do we identify whether this good is normal good or inferior good, and how do we identify whether these two goods are complements or substitute. And also I showed you how do we draw the graph using the demand function. Okay? So today we're going to mount the supply. Okay, just like we did for the demand, we're going to do supply. Then eventually we're going to combine both sides. We're going to learn how to determine the equilibrium point. Okay, and I think we will still have time after that. Then I'm going to talk about government policies. How government policies influence the market outcome. So that's what we're going to do today and also the Tuesday and next week. Okay. Okay, the same question I'm going to ask you is, okay, what's the difference between the quantity supplied and supplied? What's the difference between the quantity supplied and supplied? Supply represent a point or curve? Curve, okay? And quantity supplied represent a one particular point, right? And the supply curve looks like this. Has a positive slope. So how do you interpret supply curve? So how do we define the supply curve?
The quantity goes up, the price goes up.
Okay, so it describes the relationship between price and what?
Quantity.
Demanded. Supply. Quantity supplied. It represents the relationship between the market price and the quantity supplied. What's the second part of the sentence? While holding all other factors constant, right? Okay, because market price is not the only thing that affects the quantity supplied.
Well, that doesn't make sense that if the price goes up, when the price.
So when the price goes up, you can sell the good at a higher price. So you would like to produce more, sell more.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
So here we talk about the producer side.
Okay.
So we isolate the demand side away. Okay, ignore that. We just look at the producer side. Okay, so again, this relationship is a relationship identified when you hold all other factors constant. So then what are the all other factors? What are the factors that affect the supply curve? affect the supply curve to shift?
Resources.
Yeah.
Resources. If you find more resources, you can produce more.
The resources, that's right, okay. So let's say if a hurricane hit Florida, our orange supply will be lower,
Go down.
okay? And then when the supply is lower, supply curve shift to left or right?
Left.
Left or right?
Look,
Yeah.
Left. So no matter we talk about the demand or supply, if it's smaller, it's going to be shift to the left. If it's more, it's shift to the right. Okay? And the other factors. Taxes. Okay, we're gonna talk about how the tax affect the supply. Okay? So if government levy tax on the supplier, on the producer, how the supply curve is gonna shift?
if there's, what's the question?
The government impose a tax.
More taxes?
Yeah,
to
so
the
we
left.
Impose a tax. It's gonna shift to the left, right? Because that's bad news for the supplier. Okay? What are the factors? So
Regulations.
regulation, so tax and regulation. Just now what we talk about is, actually this is indirect policy. Later on we're gonna talk about price ceiling, price floor. Those are the direct policies that can affect the market outcome. Okay? So someday we talk about weather. What about that? What else? What's the most important factor that affect the
Consumers.
The workers that are gonna be making the supply, I don't know.
the workers? What are workers are considered as in the process of production?
Capacity.
Their input. Their labor input.
Yeah, labor.
We have capital input, we have labor input, but they are all inputs. So input prices are very, very important. If you are making your ice cream manufacturer, you make a vanilla ice cream, and now the price of vanilla beans goes up. How that's gonna affect your production? How's it gonna affect your supply?
Cost will be higher.
It costs you more now to produce vanilla ice cream. So you supply less, supply shift to the left. And if your workers, the workers work for the ice cream manufacturer, go on a strike, want higher wage. And after negotiation, and you have to raise the wage for those workers. And then your supply is going to be lower. Because the wage is labor input price. Is the price for the labor input.
So I thought when price goes up, quantity supply goes up. Isn't
This
that
is a
the opposite
price.
of what you just
That's a
said?
good question. When we draw this graph, you say this is a market for this is ice cream. We talk about ice cream, right? This is ice cream market. So this price here represents the price, market price for ice cream. But just now when we talk about price, we talk about the price of vanilla beans. We talk about the price of the labor input. Okay? So when we say when the price goes up, quantity supplied goes up, what we mean is market price of this particular good.
The price the consumer's willing to pay, you're saying, I guess.
This is the market price for the good. Yeah. But if the price of the input changes, then the whole supply is going to shift. If the price is on good changes, then the change is along the supply curve. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Any other question? That is a good question. We have to understand, when we draw this graph, what does this represent? It represents the market for this particular good. Okay. When we talk about the general equilibrium, and I don't think we're going to touch on that in this course, and you will have a millions of those graphs, and each graph represents an individual market. But all these markets, they interact with each other. One market change is going to affect all the other market. So general equilibrium talks about when all this market reach equilibrium point. Okay. But here we just draw one graph. So this one graph represents the market of particular good. Input price. What else? What else gonna affect the supply?
Technology.
Technology. When we have better technology, we're gonna supply more, supply less. Supply is going to shift. What are the factors? Do we have any other factors? We have a lot of more. The number of firms, if there are a lot of firms, supply will be higher. Okay, so we have many, many more factors. If we're gonna list it, probably never gonna finish it. So here, we're just going to, we talk about the main ones, the crucial factors. Okay. All right, so next let me talk about the supply function. So last class we talked about demand function, and today I'm going to introduce you the supply function. I'm going to use QXS represent quantity supplied, okay, for the good X. Quantity supplied for good X. Okay. And this quantity supplied for good X depends on the price of good X. Depends on the price of related good. Okay. Another factor we did not mention here is the price of related good can also affect the supply of the good. For example, if you're a farmer in Pembroke, you have a piece of land. You can use this piece of land to grow wheat or soybeans. And this year the soybeans price is up. So what are you going to decide to do? You decide to grow soybeans instead of wheat. So your supply of wheat is going to be smaller because the price of soybean goes up. Okay? So that's an example of how the price of related good affect the quantity supplied of another good. Okay, then the next one is we use W to represent the price of input. And we use H to represent the value of all other factors. The value of all other factors. So if we do not know the relationship between this one and all variables, what we're going to do is we're going to use QXS is equal to F of PX, PR, W, H to represent it. What does it mean here means the quantity supplied is a function of all these different variables. Any one of these variable changes, the quantity supplied is going to change. When we do not know the relationship between those variables, we use F to represent this implicit relationship. Economist's job is to collect data to determine what this relationship is. Once this relationship is determined, then as the owner of the business, as the manager of the business, you can use this relationship determine whether you should increase the price or decrease the price, whether you should increase the wage rate or decrease the wage rate, and how other factors going to affect the quantity supplied by your own company. Okay, let me give you a supply function. the TV sets. And here with X, good X is, PX is the price of TV. PR represent the price of monitors. And W here represent price of input. Alright, so like what I did before, I'm going to ask you questions here. Now I'm going to give you the values of these three variables. Px equal to 400, PR is equal to 100, and W is equal to 2000. And I ask you to calculate this quantity supplied. It's straightforward, right? Okay, so I'm not gonna go over that. My next question, what I'm going to ask you is, I'm going to ask you to derive the simplified supply function. And after that, I want you to derive inverse supply function. How do we do the simplified supply function?
Isn't where you have to substitute QX for 0 and PX for 0 to get those 2 points?
You're talking about drawing the supply curve.
Do you switch them on the,
Is that
on the
not the-
opposite side of the equal sign? Like, for the, inverse?
That's for the inverse, eventually we're going to move PX to the left side,
Okay.
right? Yes. But how do we do the simplified supply function? So right now, this is the supply. But we want to simplify it. How do we do it?
Split it.
Plug in what values?
PX, PR, and W.
Do we
No.
plug in all of them?
Shit.
If we plug in all of them, we're going to have a number instead of function, right?
Yeah.
So what are the value we need to plug in?
PR and W.
PR and W. We're going to leave PX right here because what we want is a relationship between QXX and PX only.
So that's for the simplified,
Yeah.
right?
Simplified
Okay.
supply function.
Read that again.
Okay. For the simplified supply function, what we want is only two variables in the function form. And these two variables is QXX and PX. That's the only variable we want in the simplified supply function. Okay? So that's why we need to plug in the value of the other two variables. The same applies to the simplified demand function. We only want QXD and PX in the simplified demand function. So you have to have the values for all other variables. Remember we talk about demand curve or supply curve. We hold all other values constant. Okay, that means we apply all those values in the function. Okay, so is everyone clear on this? How do we find the simplified supply?
Can you do one? Can you do an example of it again?
Do the calculation here?
I know it's like the same as the demand one, but
Okay,
we
I
just
can do
have to
it.
do another one.
It's here. Okay, so we're going to keep PX right here. We're not going to change it. But PR is equal to 100. We're going to plug in right here. And W is 2000. We're going to plug right into here. Then you just, you know, add them up. 2000. Here is minus 2000. So eventually it's 3px minus 400. Right? How do we draw the supply curve now? Now we have simplified the supply function, we can draw a supply curve.
Now you plug in 0. Okay.
0, that's right.
Alright, so
Now
I
you're
was-
gonna
I was
plug
one
in.
step ahead.
That's right, that's right.
Got it.
Okay, so now we use 2-point method, okay? So first I want you to find the point along the vertical axis. So which 0 I need to plug in right now? I want to find the point along the vertical.
You want Q?
Qx equal to 0.
Yes.
Okay? When Qx as equal to 0, this whole thing equal to 0, right? So 3x will be equal to 400. Following me here? Okay? Then what px equal to? Is it right? 133.33? That should be right. Okay. So this number here is what we look for. Now we need to find the number along the horizontal axis. So we need to plug 0 into where?
P.
Px. Okay. Now Px equal to 0. What is Qx equal to? When Px equal to 0?
And then 400.
9400. So where do we put it? 9400.
Don't.
We need to extend this now. Okay? And this is my 9400. We need to connect these 2 points. So the straight line that represented by this function, this simplified supply function, is this straight line here. What we used is this value and this value, use these 2 points to figure out where is this line is located. But does supply curve include this part? No, because the quantity supplied cannot be negative. You either produce something or you produce nothing, right? You cannot produce a negative number. So the supply curve is only this part. But we rely on these 2 points to find the supply. But the real supply is only on the right side of this vertical axis. You guys can do this yourself? You
Give it a
need
shot.
practice. You need practice. Okay. You can understand everything I do here, but when you do it yourself, it's very easy to make a small mistake. Practice. But everybody understand the concept here. How do I find it, right? 2-point method. You can use any 2 points, but I find it easiest to use just point where Qx equal to 0 and where Px equal to 0. Use these 2 points. But since it's straight line, you can use any 2 points to figure out where is this line is located. Alright. Inverse supply. How do we find inverse supply? This is our simplified supply function, right? How do we find inverse supply?
Solve for px.
You solve for Px. And how you gonna solve it?
Take the 400 and put it over to the other side.
Very good. QXX plus 400 is equal to 3PX, right?
Yeah.
And what PX equal to?
Q,
133.
1/3 QXX plus 400 divided by 3. So this is what we call inverse supply function. Pretty straightforward concept. So if you guys are very comfortable with this, I'm going to move on to the next concept in the supply side, which is producer surplus. Producer surplus. I'm going to erase it. It's okay? Producer surplus. Last class we talked about the consumer surplus. Do you guys remember what is consumer surplus? How do we define consumer surplus?
The difference between the price somebody's willing to pay and another person, and all the other people.
isn't there a point on the actual curve?
The difference between what the consumer values it to be and what he actually gets it.
It's a difference between your own valuation and also the market price. Okay? And for all the consumers who participate in market, let's say there's a painting, you value this painting at $50, and you're willing to pay $50 for it, and you get it for $20. So that $30 difference is your surplus. It's how much you gain from this consumption. And for other consumers who bought this good, they also have a surplus. And we add up everyone's surplus. That's what we call consumer surplus in this particular market for this good. They said it's consumer's gain. Okay? Producer surplus calculate the gains for the producers. If in this market here, in this whole world, we put everybody into this two categories, you're either producer or your consumer, then we need to know each side's gain. After we know each side's gain, then we're going to add them up. What do we call the sum of these two surplus? If we know what is consumers' gains from this market, and we know the producers' gain from this market, we add up the producer and consumers' gain together. What is that called?
Liability? I don't know. It's not much.
It's everybody's gain, but what do we call that? There's a name for it.
Is it economics or not?
It's what we call the social welfare. It's a gain for the whole society. If there's only these two parties in this market. If there's only consumer and producer in the market, then after we add up the gains from everyone, from both sides, then that's the welfare for the society we call the social welfare. However, a lot of times, they are not the only parties. Well, who else is involved in the market? Government. When the government is involved, then we have to add government into the picture. So instead of have two parties, we'll have what? 3. And when we calculate social welfare, and we have to add government's gain in the social into it. Okay? So that's the social welfare. It is a very, very important concept. It is a gain of everyone. Okay, so if you're a policymaker. If you're a policymaker, and one of your economic objective is to reach efficiency. Reach equivalent to say that highest social welfare. So whenever we say we want the highest efficiency in the market, what does that mean? It means we want the highest social welfare. We want the highest gain of everyone. The whole want highest gain. That's the meaning of efficiency. The highest sum of everyone being together. Okay? Then if that is the objective for this policymaker, then they're going to look into the gain, going to look into the sum of these three sides. They're going to add them up and see whether this is the highest or not. And that's what we're going to talk about today actually. How do we measure the efficiency? How do we measure this total social welfare? And see whether the government intervention has any impact on that or not. Okay, so let's go back to the producer surplus. Okay, so like consumer surplus, and we're going to interpret it graphically because economics, we love to use graph. Graph really give us a strong intuition of what's going on. Okay, more than actually mathematics. So we want to use graph, okay? And for the consumer surplus, what we use is demand, right? Demand curve. We see every point along the demand. Anybody remember that? This is the demand, right? I gave a new interpretation for the demand. I see every point along the demand represent what? Represent different individuals, right? Okay? Then the corresponding value along the vertical axis represent that individual's what?
Surplus. Value.
Valuations of the object. Okay. So that's how we interpret demand for consumer surplus. Now, I'm going to again interpret supply curve similarly. So who can give us this new interpretation? We're gonna figure out this new interpretation for the supply now. Mimic the way we did it for the demand.
What do you mean on like how do you calculate producer?
How do we interpret supply?
So you're just looking for like an
And do
analysis.
the,
Like the way I interpret demand is this.
Yeah.
Each point there represent a different customer, different individuals.
then you do it with.
And whose corresponding value along the vertical axis represent the valuation, right? Okay, so that's how we interpret demand.
Okay.
So how do we interpret supply now?
So it'd be the producers.
So each point there represent a different producer,
Yeah.
different firm, different business, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And what else?
Horizontal line would be
And
The price they're
corresponding value would be represent what?
what they're willing to sell it for. Or
Their sur-
what their valuation is.
Yeah, I know. The best price they want to sell.
Why do you want to sell that price? That's very close.
Because that meets their,
Oh,
This is from A. They want the product at least the price that this one. Why?
because that
The
reaches
cost
their
of-
capacity.
Cost of it. Because corresponding value here represent the cost of producing it. Okay? So the supply curve here represent the infinite number of supplier and whose corresponding value along the vertical axis represent the cost of producing a unit for each individual firm. That's how we interpret supply curve. New interpretation. Alright, so now let's say, we have a market price. It's right here. This is how much the firm can sell the good at. What other firms are going to participate in this market, which means what are the firms going to produce and sell?
Those,
Is A going to participate?
no.
Is A going to participate?
Yes, because it's lower than the price you can sell it at.
You gonna make some money.
Yeah, the cost of producing unit for firm A is lower than the market price, so they can make a profit. So A is going to participate, right?
Yeah.
How about B? Right here.
Yeah.
The cost of producing the goods is higher than the market price, so the firm B is not going to participate. Right? So who are the firms going to participate now? All those firms are going to participate. And for firm A, what's firm A's gain of producing and selling one unit?
The difference.
All that.
It's this distance here, right? For this firm here, this distance here represent this firm C's gain. And each we figure out each participating firm's gain, and we add all of them up, and it would be this triangle, right? So this triangle is producer surplus that is represented by the graph in this market. And we call the producer surplus. It is really a special name. But actually producer surplus is just what? What is a name that we always use in our daily life?
Profit.
Then profit. The profit. The profit of every firm that participates in this market. Alright, so now I'm going to add supply and demand together.
That's a good question. So that shaded area is profit?
It's a profit of
Mhm.
all the firm who participate in this
Right.
market.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see, okay.
So on a case by case basis.
Market by market, yeah. So every time we draw a graph, we draw in a particular market. So now we're going to add supply and demand together. So we already have supply here. And we're going to say this is our demand. With that demand curve, which area represent consumer surplus? Which area represent consumer surplus?
In
That
the
one.
on top of
That one. Right. Okay. This is consumer surplus, CS. This producer surplus, PS. This big triangle area, which is the sum of both surplus, represent social welfare in this market. Means the gain of everyone. And in this market here, we made assumption, we assume that there's no third party intervene. So we assume there's no government intervention here. Only consumer and the producers. Market operate on its own. Market determine what the price is at. It's sold at, it's bought at. There's no third party intervene in this process. If there's no third party intervene in this process, that is a gain of the whole society. Okay. So next we're going to talk about third-party intervention? What if there is some policy or regulation that intend to change the market outcome?
Like the price for a price ceiling?
That's right. Okay. So remember, this is the outcome when there's no intervention, okay? And this is our social welfare. And we use this social welfare to represent efficiency level. The higher the social welfare is, the higher the efficiency level is in the economy. So next we're going to talk about policies that affect the market outcome. So what we want to see here is, first, how the policy is going to affect consumer surplus or the producer surplus, and how the policy eventually going to affect the social welfare and the efficiency. Okay. So there's two set of policy we want to talk about. The first one is direct policies. What are the direct policies? That policy target the price directly, which is price setting and price floor. And the other policy we want to talk about is indirect policies. So which means the policy itself does not target the price, market price right away, but affects the market price indirectly, like tax, which is indirect policy. So we want to see how these policies affect the outcome. Okay, remember our policy. So,
$1.
okay. So let's talk about the direct policy first. Price setting policy. What is a price setting policy? You guys have seen this name before, right? So learned what is price setting.
The limit at which a price can be set.
Price get higher than that price.
The highest price you can sell it. Why does the government use price setting policy? So in what kind of situation that price setting policy is implemented?
Market control. So they don't
They think
exploit consumers, like if there's a hurricane and you got board up your house with plywood or something, so that they can't raise the price.
so the government use price setting
To protect.
when they think the market price is too
High.
high. Demand is here, supplies here. You all know this is a market equilibrium point, right? Okay, I did not really mention, but I assume everyone knows the point here is market equilibrium point. This is what we call market equilibrium price. If the government thinks this price is too high, then the government is going to use price setting. So where is the price setting is at?
Below it.
Below it. When the price setting is used, there is consequence. Okay. Economics, the first class I mentioned. Well, the first important concept, opportunity cost. What does it mean, opportunity cost? What does it mean is, for anything you do in this world, there is a cost, there is opportunity cost. The same thing applies for the government policy. There is an opportunity cost of using price ceiling or price floor. So there's a cost. There's no free lunch. Everything has cost. So now we're going to study what is the cost of using price ceiling. Of course, the intention was good. So the intention is to make the good affordable for the consumers. That's a good intention, but it comes with a cost. Okay. What's the first thing you see that is going to be a consequence of price ceiling?
The total gain of social welfare shrinks.
Yes, we're going to talk about that, but what lead to that?
Producer surplus.
This is the price ceiling, right? So when you use the market price, you know the quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded, right? But when you use the price ceiling, what's happening here?
You're missing out on that.
Shortage. What is this one here?
Shortage.
This is the quantity supplied at this market, at this price ceiling, right? Do you guys see that? Let's say this is $20. This is really $12. At $12, and this is 20. Quantity supplied is 20, right? So which means that is how many units that will be produced at that price. What is the quantity demanded at that price?
Much more.
So you're going to extend this line to the demand, right? So what you see here is, and so this is 40, a larger amount. So at a lower price, you're going to have more people want this good than the people who want to provide it. You can see that?
Yeah.
Because price is lower than the market rate, so there are more people want it than the people who want to supply it. What do we call this?
Shortage.
Oh, shortage. When we have a shortage, what do we usually see in the market? Black market. People sell good in the black market, right? And they sell it at higher price. Okay. So that's one of the consequences. You will have a black market whenever there's a shortage. Okay. Or people who use, and then other possibilities. People use the network. Okay. You're my friend. Okay. I would like to have it. First. Okay. Corruption may arise. Okay. So that's the direct consequence. Next, we want to talk about indirect consequence, which is on the consumer surplus, producer surplus, and social welfare. Now I want you to tell me, at this price ceiling, what is producer surplus and what is consumer surplus? It is harder to see now. Before, when the price is right here, we can easily identify, okay, this area is consumer surplus, this area is producer surplus, this is social welfare, right? Now it's harder to identify. Our first question comes first. What is actual quantity that is traded in the market? What is actual quantity that is sold? 20 or 40? 20, right?
Right.
So this is actual quantity that's traded. So which means 20 units are sold and 20 units are bought. There are 20 suppliers who are able to sell the good and 20 consumers who are able to enjoy the good.
So the producer surplus would be under the 12. It would be that small triangle on the bottom.
That is a producer surplus.
Yeah, okay, and then
Very good.
the top is the waste, well, the base is the waste. and then-
Producer surplus is area between what? The market price and the supply curve.
Mhm.
Okay. This is supply, right? We talked about just now. We said this, if this is a market price, then this area represents producer surplus. So it is area between the market price and the supply curve, right? So right now the price is right here, and supply curve is right here. So this is area will represent producer surplus. Are you guys following me?
Mhm.
If you're not, I'm going to solve that question.
He said producer surplus is gonna be between supply curve and price.
And market price, and the price. So right now the price is $12, the price ceiling, right? And the supply curve is right here, and it's area between these two lines. Yes? Still digesting? What about the consumer surplus? Consumer surplus, we say it is this is demand. We talk about consumer surplus, we say if this is a market price, this is the consumer surplus, right?
Mhm.
So it is area between the market price and the demand.
So that line where it says $20, that's the equilibrium price.
That's the equilibrium price. But the government says, you know, you cannot sell at this $20. You can only sell at $12. Don't use the price saving here.
And then on your graph on the left, the larger triangle would be the consumer surplus there, right?
This one?
It'd be
The whole triangle.
all the way down to shade the consumer surplus for me if you would. Where's the consumer surplus on your graph, your original graph on that?
Will be here. So originally, if there's no price ceiling, if that's the market price, this will be the consumer surplus, right? But now the price ceiling policy is used.
So it's the whole top part.
This whole thing?
Yeah.
Any other opinions?
To the quantity 40, the triangle, the big triangle.
The big triangle here? This one? Okay. Interesting, good. A lot of different answers. Others?
Isn't
There's some waste in there somewhere.
isn't the dead weight loss between
He's right.
quantity supplied and quantity demand?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, eventually it's going to be there.
Okay, so it's the 20, right? You cut that part off,
That's
Yeah,
all.
and that's the consumer surplus.
this way.
Yeah,
Yeah, and the triangle in the middle is the.
is a net weight loss.
Very good guess. So you all agree we're going to do that, right?
Mhm.
And this area here is?
Consumer surplus.
Why? You guys are correct. That is consumer surplus. Why?
Cause that's the area between the demand curve and the new market price.
It is true, good. So it is between the demand and the market price, right? But why would draw a straight line here? And use this as a divider.
Because that quantities were not provided, were not.
There's only 20 units that is bought, right? So which means that there's only 20 consumers who can buy it. But then I have another question for you. Okay. The price is right here, right? And remember when we talk about the, demand, each point represent each individual's valuation, right? So which means all the individual from here to here, all these people here are able to afford this $12. That's correct?
Right.
But it's only 20 units.
But then why those people? So if you say this is consumer surplus, so you're assuming the people from here to here are going to get it. Why? They are the people who
They're
get it.
offering the higher price.
They have higher valuation than others. Those guys' valuation of this good is higher than the rest of them, right? Yes, correct. But why the people who value this good the highest get this good? Why? You know, for this price, any of those people from here to here can get it. If $12 so dear, I value is that as $13. I can go ahead and get it. And the other person value as $25 can also go ahead and get it, right? So why the people who value the good the highest eventually get it?
Because they're willing to pay the most for it, that's all.
But the price is only $12. The
Does
price not going to be different than from.
producer want to earn more money?
A producer has to sell the good at $12.
Opportunity cost, they're gonna hire opportunity
How-
cost for it.
How the opportunity cost plays a role here?
It's essentially worth more to them, so they're willing to forego more to make sure they get that product.
They'll get it
Huh?
first.
How do they forego? What kind of stuff they gonna forego to get it?
So they need time.
Okay, let me give you an example here. It's a real example. It's called the Black Friday. Oh, no, the sale day after Thanksgiving. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, Black Friday. Okay, so well, I participated one time because I saw the ad. There's a computer which is Panasonic. I think it's only $300, $400. So okay, I can have it for $300, and it's in Best Buy, I think. So I got up. I stayed up until like 4 o'clock. Okay, it's 4 o'clock. So because the store opened at 5, I think. So I got there around 4:30. Trying to get it, but already, a line in front of me. And when the door opened, I rushed in. Of course, I did not get it because there was only 3 available. Okay, in this example, perfect example, there's shortage, right? More people want this good than there's ones available, right? There's shortage. So quantity demanded is smaller than the quantity supplied. Okay. And my valuation is definitely higher than $300. And all the people who in line, their valuation is higher than $300, right? But who get it?
The ones who got
The
there.
people who got there first, the first 3 people got it. So what's the difference between me and those 3 people?
They valued it higher.
Those 3 people value this good higher than I do. So they're willing to stay there whole night. They're willing to wait there, for, 5-6 hours. But for me, it's worth it, but it's not worth me staying up whole night. So the people who got this good are the ones who value the good highest. Since they value the good highest, they're willing to give up the highest amount. So they're willing to let go the sleeping, the driving, and all kinds of different other kind of cost. So that's why those people are going to get goods, because those people are willing to forego higher than anybody else. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you one more question here, see if you can answer me. So in this picture, what we have is this just the market price of this good. In a sense, it's like $300 for this laptop, right? Okay. But when we talk about waiting in line, that is cost as well, right? Waiting is cost, not sleeping is cost, right? So how do you capture those costs in this graph? which area, which distance there represent those costs.
The area that the big triangle minus the left part is the cost.
Where? Say it again.
The big triangle minus.
Let's just pick one individual.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just pick a guy.
The middle triangle.
Let's just pick this guy here. This guy values highest. Okay, right? He values higher than everybody else in the world on this good. So how much addition cost he or she is willing to incur in order to get this good?
Distance from that point.
Is that right?
Because now you
Oh,
can
no,
extend it all the way down.
Hold on.
Wouldn't he want it more at $12 even though he want it really badly at 12, 20?
What?
Are you trying to measure the actual, I guess, initiative to get the good?
Yes.
Okay. Do you-
So I'm asking you, okay, how much more they're willing to give up in order to get this good, in addition to
Is everybody already willing to go to the?
in addition to this cost here.
Let's say that the P, or that the dot you put, let's say it's $30, would it be 30 minus 12, 18?
So let's say this is $30.
Yeah.
Okay.
Assuming, I guess, but.
So say it again, I did not hear what you said.
You say just 30 minus 12, which would be 18, and then I guess that would be his number of what he's willing to go to get it.
For the additional cost is on that, I guess.
It is in addition to this price here, how much they're willing to let go. But they also have to remember they want to get a product, right? They want to own this product, but there is a amount of limits they want to, they cannot go beyond, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So since $30 is their valuation, right? Okay. And the $12 is the price they're gonna pay anyway, right? So they have this $18 difference. So this $18 is how much they're willing to go in a sense to get this product. And for this guy here, and this guy is going to willing to. So this guy probably willing to spend the whole night, and the other guy probably is willing to spend not whole night, probably as a
3/4 of that.
yes. So for all these peoples, this people is going to willing to give up less, little bit less. This guy is going to give even less, but all these people are willing to give up more than the rest of them. So you guys make sense this? Okay. So this basically the reason I'm telling you this is to show you why we're only concerned about this people here. Why those are the people who eventually get the goods. Since they are the people who eventually get the goods, and that's why, and this is a consumer surplus. Okay. But when we talk about consumer surplus, actually we ignore that opportunity cost. We did not take into consideration of the opportunity cost. Because if we do take that into consideration, the surplus will be smaller. Okay. Okay. So since this is a consumer surplus, and this is a producer surplus, and this is a social welfare, and in this situation. Okay. And then we call this area is what? Everybody knows what is it? It's called the deadweight loss. Deadweight loss is just the loss of the social welfare. So loss of the social welfare due to the government's policy. Is this challenging, too challenging? Or is too easy? Not too easy, so it just
Just about
Okay. Good. Okay. Okay. So now we understand what is impact from this pricing, okay, on the consumer surplus and the producer surplus, and also on the social welfare. So the sum of everybody's gain is going to be smaller than the situation when there is no government intervention. So in this case, efficiency is lost. When we say social welfare is lost, it's equivalent to say that efficiency is lost.
But the only reason you'd ever have a price ceiling in the first place is so that consumers won't be exploited.
That's right. Yeah. So people can afford good. So the intention was good. The intention was good. It just does not deliver the highest efficiency. Highest efficiency is not equivalent to equity fairness. You know, it's two different objectives in economics. So sometimes in order to realize fairness and equity, you have to sacrifice the efficiency.
Right.
So these two sometimes is cost of the other.
Wouldn't you say that quality suffers as well if you put a price ceiling?
Quantity suffered,
Quality.
quality suffered.
Like say you put a price ceiling on apartments in New York, wouldn't you think that the landlord would be less willing to like fix the sink or something if he's charging less than the equilibrium price?
That's definitely going to have impact on that. That's right. For some market, that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be considered one of the other factors affect the supply.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So actually, that's going to shift the supply. Okay. So now you understand how do we calculate social welfare this way. So the way we calculate social welfare is this. We find consumer surplus, we find producer surplus, we add them up together. Okay. If this is the principal course, I'm going to stop right here. But since this is advanced level of macroeconomics, I'm going to introduce you another approach to calculate the social welfare, or to understand social welfare. Okay. These two approaches are equivalent. Okay. So this approach is the following. What is social welfare if you think about this word? Social welfare is society's gain. Okay. So society's gain comes from where? Where does society's gain come from? Society's gain comes from the satisfaction gained by the consumer. That's the ultimate gain for the society. It's not the profit made by the firm. It's not the revenue made by the collected by the government. It's the satisfaction, the utility you gain from consuming this good. That is the ultimate gain for the society. Okay. So social welfare is equal to the social benefit, we call that, which is just what we talk about, the consumer's gain, the satisfaction from consumption. That is what we call social benefit. But in order for us to gain that benefit, to gain that satisfaction, the goods has to be produced, right? So the cost for this gain satisfaction is just cost of producing it. So for any good exists in the market, how do we measure the social welfare for that good? We look at the social benefit that good brings to the society, and we look at the social cost of making it. We don't care who made money out of it. We don't care how the money is transferred from who to who, no. We just look at how much satisfaction gained by the consumer. And we look at the cost of making this good. So that is another way of calculating the social welfare. So for this approach, we do not look at this anymore. We do not look at the market price, because the price actually is what? It just transfer the payment from you to her, from her to another person. It's a transfer of a payment. It's nothing is lost, nothing is gained. If you look at it from the whole, it's just transfer payment. So it's not considered as a part of the social welfare. So the social welfare is just a social benefit. Okay, so now let's look at where is the social benefit. Okay, we talk about social benefit is actual satisfaction gained, okay, actual utility gained. Okay. Who gained it? Consumer gained it. Those consumers. Okay, those consumers, determined by, our previous analysis, those consumers gain this, bought this good, is able to gain the satisfaction, right? So they enjoy the social benefit. Okay. Where's the social cost of making it? Okay, those firms going to produce the good. So this part of line here represents cost of making the good. So this part of line represents the utility or satisfaction gained by the consumers, by the people, and this represents the cost of making good. So the difference between this and this is the social welfare. So that's why this whole area represents social welfare. So that's another approach to understand social welfare. We don't need to know who pays how much. But the price, is it price important here? It is. It's important in the sense that this price is going to determine the quantity that is traded. That's only the role the price plays in this picture. This price determines that. If the price is higher, this quantity is going to be higher, right? So we'll have more firms participate. We'll have more people, more consumers participate. You guys kind of contemplate on this. This is a very actually challenging concept to understand social welfare from point of view of social benefit and social cost. And we do not care and the middleman and the transfer payment. We do not care about that. So that's okay, so I'm going to assign the first agreed homework today, and it's going to be, I believe, Saturday next week. So you will have to do that. And for some problem, you can already start working on it. And also, we will have a tutor for this course. Okay, and the hours, I do not know that yet. We will have 2 hours tutor for each week. So, and I'm going to post the hours here over soon once I know that.